Hello, I am Arpan Bansal. I lead the engineering practices for public sector at Newzen. We have today Cheryl McKinnon with us, Principal Analyst Forrester. Hi Cheryl.
Hi there.
Cheryl, we see globally we see that government agencies are adopting digital record management platform is changing. We are working with National Archive Oman, where 18 ministries and National Archive have come on boarded on a centralized cloud-based platform. And we see similar trend in other countries also.
Okay.
So do you see the similar trend, or do you have?
Yes, absolutely. Digital records are absolutely a top focus for government agencies worldwide. We're seeing national governments looking to modernize their archival practices in order to accept more born digital records really from the first time. We see the organizations are trying to invest in slowing the pace of paper records coming into these memory institutions, whether it's archive, other cultural institutions. These records include not only documents, but also now rich media, communications such as email, other forms of electronic communication, maybe even social media, for example. These various forms of born digital records hold the rationale for decisions and other noteworthy program and policies. We see archive institutions establishing metadata standards, so there's better ways of organizing, preserving, and of course retrieving and viewing digital records. We also see the public sector is often on the forefront of things like long-term digital preservation of digital records, ensuring that we're not only keeping the digital records, but we're able to retrieve it years, decades down the road.
So choosing a right software platform for digital record management is very, very important. And what are those important characteristics that customers should look for while selecting a software platform for record management?
So I think government agencies need to choose a trusted platform for long-term digital records. There's a number of characteristics that they can look at, including the overall commitment of the vendor to innovating in areas of digital records and document management. One thing to look for is the vendor's commitment to meeting some of the key international standards around records management requirements. Compliance with some of these standards often is a signal that there's ongoing investment in the technologies and that they're willing to invest to ensure that there's key features and capabilities are being met. But just as important, especially as we see the shift to more flexible content platforms, is the ability to deploy the solution in line with the agency's specific needs. So public sector organizations often have very different needs. They generate different types of digital records. So it's important to not just choose any product that meets a particular designation, but also meets the unique requirements around usability, metadata flexibility, great search and integration in line with key business or document creation applications. Standards are very helpful, but should not be the sole criteria by which you choose a product. One of the areas that standards such as the US Federal DoD 5015.2 can really help is when there's a requirement to manage not just digital records, but also physical artifacts as well, especially in one system. Standards such as these really validate the vendor's capability. So if there's a case or a claim or a program file that contains both digital as well as physical or paper records, we've got the ability to have the consistent metadata, search capabilities, retrieval capabilities across all of the various media types. And this can be important for usability and governance issues, and it means that there's only one application to go to for search or establishing policies. So we're eliminating some of the disjointed or disconnected management practices for different media types.
Process digitization is a very important aspect of digital record management implementations. And recently what we have seen is that flexible workflow, BPM based or business process management based flexible workflow is very useful when it comes to fine tune processes and workflows as per the use of end user, and we have been able to manage the variations between department to department and agency to agency requirements very well. Can you share your thoughts on this?
Yeah, and I think as the volume of digital records grow, organizations are also looking to reduce the manual activities required to tag them or assign retention codes. So automation and these process services that we're seeing can play a very important role here to capture and organize digital records at scale. Workflow-driven metadata, categorization, policy assignment, and even review for disposal or archives transfer helps keeps deadlines met, keeps policies better enforced, and provides a way to handle very large volumes of records with just a few clicks. So consistency, we know, is a key element of good governance. And the process-driven retention instead of user-driven is an area that more organizations should consider. So we see that process-driven retention services can also be valuable when there's unique requirements across different departments or agencies. Process can be driven by metadata or record types or other essential criteria. Information management professionals can then map that journey of their key records based on their specific needs. So for example, the process of capturing or classifying, identifying records generated by a social services agency might be very different than an agency collecting business tax records. So process and metadata services can be flexibly used to design the end-to-end life cycle of these very different categories of documents and with very different security or privacy requirements as well.
So Cheryl, we are working on some innovative technologies like auto classification, RPA-based cognitive bot for assisting filing of a record, microservice architecture in our platform. Do you see that these things in coming time will help simplify the life of a record manager?
I think the records manager today certainly struggles with the scale and the volume of digital records. So innovations such as automated classification, use of RPA, modern services-driven architectures do hold some promise to help solve some of these problems both today and for tomorrow. We think that automated classification can really be essential, especially for public sector agencies when they're able to tag and categorize very high volume of business records, even across various media types. So we think automation can be accomplished by using some of these intelligent services that can be trained to recognize patterns of different records, different record types, at an acceptable degree of accuracy. Records management professionals, they are the key subject matter experts, are really in a prime position to assess the training and then the quality control of those results. So I think automation can be done with process. So for example, extracting key data from records, using that newly available metadata to initiate a new retention process, or by routing records into containers where metadata can be inherited. So with respect to RPA, this brings some really interesting opportunities to modern records management as well, by allowing these bots to identify key data in the document or the file properties and extracting that for tagging or filing into the records management application. So incoming digital records from third-party enterprise applications may have useful data attached to them, but today that might require human intervention to rekey it.
Sure.
So RPA opens up the door to more automation when other applications are in the mix.
Cheryl, globally government organizations are trying to consolidate delivery of citizen-centric services on a centralized platform, and obviously the idea is to optimize on cost, to standardized architecture, and also to be able to come up with more and more services rapidly. Can you please comment on the role of ECM and BPM in such initiatives?
Digital government initiatives are pervasive in jurisdictions on every continent today. Goals typically include becoming more citizen-centric and developing new programs and services with this mission in mind. Modernization of existing programs often demands nimbler approaches to app design and delivery. These truly citizen-centric services means using development techniques that are more iterative, more agile, more flexible, and allow for measurements of the key success metrics along the way. So nearly all of the essential services, that we see delivered by government, they generate documents, they generate records, digital communication, and we know that process will underpin all of this. So a cohesive platform upon which to build these citizen service applications, as well as manage the internal processes to support them, this often requires modernization. So, common repository, metadata, security services help governments design citizen-facing applications that can provide that single picture of the truth. So we can use rules and processes to help ensure that there's no conflict or duplication of the services when the citizen's identity is known. Better service to individuals can happen when there's a full picture of the relevant correspondence or approvals or forms or any other case artifacts because they're readily available. So efficiencies become possible when those government program teams are able to share their content and process services when it's appropriate. So the ability to eliminate historical silos, which have made department-to-department communications difficult in the past. Common information architectures can make information sharing as well as consistent application of security or privacy rules much easier. And bespoke development that we see today, trying to build these content or process services entirely from scratch. That often results in time or resource overruns. So we see that purpose-built platforms with these core services already available are typically more efficient starting points. So, traditionally our data shows that governments have been more reliant on paper or manual-based processes. This means an opportunity, though, today to build more digital citizen services in a modern architecture and kind of leapfrog over a decade of older systems. So, designing for today's preferences, digital first, mobile first, web friendly, is an opportunity that modern content and process services platform can deliver.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.